The legislature is about to sit, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is coming off a European trip. Was it successful? Are those elbows still down? How has the Carney government been doing right before Parliament sits? Let's find out. I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and Brian Lilley. I want to kind of cover a bit of the waterfront here, Brian, going into this session of Parliament. Remember when the Trump was such an existential threat to
Yep.
Canada? Our Parliament didn't sit. Well, finally, we're sitting. Coming September 15th, Pierre Poilievre is now going to be back in Parliament. I'm sure that will change is an important dynamic. But let's talk about Prime Minister Mark Carney for a moment. Going into this session, his elbows are down. The tariffs have been taken off against the United States, which we'll discuss. And he just came back from Europe, where he said that LNG could potentially be a good export for Canada if the business case is there. The big question being if. So let's talk about his summer.
It's been an interesting one. He's been running with one gear, that's reverse. It's I don't want to insult liberals and say they have no principles, but Warren would tell you the same. If you don't like their principles, hang on, we've got more in the back. Let me go get them. Yeah, Donald Trump's the biggest existential threat. He's trying to break us. The relationship is over. Wow, he's a great guy. I'm taking off the tariffs. My elbows are down. They're up, they're down. He was doing the chicken dance for part of the summer. Completely different view from the previous government on LNG. But can he deliver? Look, going back to April of 2024, Justin Trudeau was saying we're bringing in people faster than we can absorb them, and said he was going to get a handle on immigration. He never did all through 2024. November 2024, they said, we are bringing out new targets, lower targets for temporary foreign workers and the like. We just blew past them, even though Mark Carney even said during the campaign that he would lower immigration rates because we're bringing in more people than we could house, more people than there were jobs for. Can he deliver? So far, immigration is one that we can point to and say no. On everything else, we're sitting around and saying, well, it depends. And if he delivers good, and if he can't, that's bad. On immigration, which should be simple, no, you're not getting a temporary foreign worker permit to hire someone to run your Tim Hortons in Calgary for $36 an hour. No, we're not approving that. Instead, these things are being approved. This is what happens when we haven't had an effective government for the entire year. The ministers don't know their files. The government's not paying attention to what they're doing. So this doesn't bode well for the rest of Carney in being able to deliver.
Warren, we have discussed how, even in the past couple of months since the election, there has been a bit of a long honeymoon period for Mark Carney and his government. But recent public opinion polling is showing that eroding, not a lot, but just there's a bit of a decline, because all of the issues that Canada was facing way before Donald Trump became president of the United States, way before those threats of tariffs came in, Canada was already facing so many of its own domestic issues, many of which Brian has already mentioned. Carney was critical of the former Trudeau Liberal government on some of those, but he hasn't acted on any of them. And I'm wondering, as the parliamentarians quote sort of go back to school, what does that look like?
Well, it doesn't look good. Maybe the guys, I don't know if the guys can pull it up. I'd love it if they could show a clip of George Herbert Walker Bush Sr. At the Republican convention many years ago saying, "Read my lips."
Yeah.
So that clip is important because that was the election issue for President Bush, and it's why he lost to Bill Clinton. When you make one issue your central issue in an election campaign, that's the one issue you can't flip-flop on. You can't do a reversal on it. And that is what Mark Carney has done, in my opinion, with his statement of a few days ago about dropping tariffs, responsive tariffs against the United States. The one thing he said in the election campaign that he was given a mandate for, clearly, it's why he beat Pierre Poilievre, is he said this is what he was going to do. You know, elbows up famously, now infamously, that he said. I mean, they ran advertising about it. That was the central focus of their campaign. He has now reversed himself on the central focus of his campaign, the mandate he got from the Canadian people. So on all of these other issues that you and Brian have mentioned, it's important to me. But like, I'm a guy who used to help run federal Liberal election campaigns. The one thing you cannot do is reverse yourself on the center. And he has now done that. Now, is he paying a price for it in public opinion yet? No. We're still seeing that he's ahead, with the exception of Abacus in the past few days. But I believe, and this is my prediction for the coming days and weeks, I believe that this is going to take a toll on his popularity. He has reversed himself on his mandate that he got from the Canadian people, and there's a price to pay for that.
It's interesting, Brian, because what Warren is touching on is what we saw throughout the course of the campaign. All of the things that Mark Carney accused Pierre Poilievre of going to do if he had become prime minister, backing down, elbows down, not going to have reciprocal tariffs, all those things. Carney's done them, all the things that he accused Poilievre that he would do. So from the Conservatives' perspective, as they go into this session of Parliament, where are their attack lines against this government?
Just on Carney doing what he accused Poilievre of doing, I would have preferred a prime minister somewhere between elbows up, let's fight those bastards in Washington, and Mr. President, with your leadership being as wonderful it is and the wonderness of your leadership, like, he was slavish in his praise for Donald Trump at both Kananaskis and in the White House. A little bit embarrassing. And that's what he warned people Poilievre would have done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm surprised Carney did it. I don't think Poilievre would have. I think that their lines of attack are going to be all these other issues. I still don't think that they know what to do with Trump. And the more that they talk about Donald Trump, the better it is for the Liberals. That's something that the Abacus polling was showing. Why does Abacus have the Conservatives up over the Liberals just slightly? It's because these other issues around the economy, housing affordability, unemployment, those are still there. And when people pay attention to them, it's better for the Conservatives. If they pay attention to Donald Trump, it's better for the Liberals. So still watch for them not to bring up Trump all that often, unless it's to point out Carney's failure with Trump, and then to focus on the fact that we are still bringing in a huge number of temporary foreign workers when youth unemployment is above 15%, when national unemployment is rising, when to point out that housing starts have all but stalled. I mean, Ontario, it's flat, and the housing crisis is still going on. Those are the issues that they're going to go back to, because the government hasn't delivered on them yet and doesn't have a good answer. There may not be a great answer at the moment, but they're the ones in charge now, and they've got to say something.
Warren, a last word to you from your vantage point as this session will begin. From the Conservative side, what is your take on how they're going to pierce through this waning popularity of the Liberal government?
Well, governments defeat themselves, and a good sign that governments are nervous is what we're seeing this morning. Like Carney's Minister of Energy, who is an otherwise sensible fellow, came out yesterday and started being very critical of what he called the previous government. And it's like, hey, pal, you should take a look around the office, because most of the people who you work with are members of the previous government. So they're already, that to me is an indication they're nervous, and then they know that this stuff is starting to stick. What should conservatives do about that? Well, they should focus on that. But instead, Mr. Poilievre is, again, I think, fighting the last war. He came out yesterday swinging at the carbon tax, and I don't understand that, because, you know, the carbon tax, the the individual carbon tax is gone. So I don't know what their polling shows, that there's mileage to be had on that issue. Poilievre needs to stop being the guy entirely he was before, because he lost the election. He needs to make some fundamental changes. So my advice would be Poilievre needs to make some changes, and the Conservatives need to focus on the things that Liberals are clearly nervous about, which is these issues that Brian mentioned.
All right. Well, the Parliament is going to be back in session. Carney's elbows are down. So, what will the Liberal government do to actually move some of these policy issues ahead? Well, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to the TorontoSun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.